Black American pilots shot down over Japan couldn't believe what Japanese women did next. July 1945. A fighter pilot falls from the sky into enemy territory. He expects execution, torture, the death every downed airman fears. Instead, he wakes in a farm shed, where 3 women are hiding him from their own soldiers. A war widow who's lost everything. A teacher who stopped believing the lies. A teenage girl who found him first. They know the penalty is death. They know their own military will kill them for mercy. But still they choose to protect him. Whispered lessons by lamplight. Soldiers at the door. A betrayal that shatters everything. And when the execution post is prepared and rifles are raised, one woman steps between the enemy pilot and the guns. What makes strangers risk everything for someone they're told to hate? And when mercy costs your life, is it still worth choosing? The cockpit filled with black smoke. Cal Mercer tasted metal and burning oil. Alarms screamed through his headset. His P-51 Mustang shuddered under another direct hit from ground fire. He fought the stick, but the plane refused to respond. Through the cracked canopy, he saw Eli's fighter spiral away. Flames trailed behind it. Cal yanked the emergency release. The canopy flew off. Wind tore at his face. He pulled the ejection handle. The seat launched him into open sky. His parachute snapped open with a violent jerk. The Mustang tumbled past him in pieces. It exploded somewhere below in a rice field. Black smoke rose in thick columns. Cal drifted down through quiet air. His left leg throbbed. Blood soaked through his flight suit. The ground rushed up faster than he expected. He hit hard. Water splashed around him. Mud covered his goggles. Pain shot through his leg and ribs. He tried to stand but collapsed into the flooded rice paddy. His chute dragged him sideways until he cut the lines. Everything blurred. He heard distant shouting in Japanese. Boots crunched through wet earth. Cal tried to crawl toward higher ground. His arms gave out. He rolled onto his back and stared at the darkening sky. The shouting grew louder. Cal had heard the stories. He knew what happened to captured pilots, the interrogations, the executions. Some were burned alive for propaganda films. His squadron commander had warned them all, never get shot down over Japan. His vision dimmed. Shadows moved across the rice field toward him. Cal reached for his sidearm, but his holster was empty, lost in the fall. He tried to speak, but only managed a groan. The shadows became shapes. 3 figures approached with lanterns. Not soldiers, civilians, women. They wore simple farm clothes and carried no weapons. One knelt beside him. She said something in Japanese. Her voice sounded urgent, but not angry. Another woman checked his leg wound. The third kept watch toward the road. Cal tried to focus on their faces. He expected hatred. He had been taught to expect it. American. Propaganda posters showed Japanese soldiers with fangs. Radio broadcasts called them animals. Everyone said they would torture him. But these women just looked frightened. One of them gestured to the others. They lifted him carefully. Cal groaned as pain flared through his ribs. They carried him away from the burning wreckage, away from the road. Dusk settled over the fields. Cal drifted in and out of consciousness. He felt himself being dragged into a wooden structure, a barn. They laid him on straw. One woman pressed cloth against his bleeding leg. He passed out before he could understand why they were helping him. Cal woke to urgent whispers. His head pounded. His leg burned. He tried to sit up, but hands pushed him back down. Gentle but firm. 3 Japanese women knelt around him in the dim light. A single lantern hung from a wooden beam. Shadows danced across their worried faces. The oldest woman had gray hair pulled back tight. Her hands moved quickly over his wounds. She tore strips from her own sleeve to make bandages. The second woman looked younger. She wore glasses and kept glancing toward the barn door. The third was barely more than a girl, maybe 16. She held the lantern with shaking hands. They spoke in rapid Japanese. Cal understood nothing. He tried to move. Pain shot through his ribs. The older woman said something sharp and pressed him down again. She pointed at his leg and shook her head. He needed to stay still. Cal stared at them in confusion. Why were they helping him? He was the enemy. His bomber group had destroyed Japanese cities. He had escorted missions that killed thousands. These women should hate him, but they just looked terrified. The woman with glasses moved to a gap in the barn wall. She peered outside and then turned back. She spoke urgently to the others. The older woman nodded. They all went silent. Cal heard it too. Footsteps outside, multiple sets, heavy boots on packed earth, men speaking Japanese in harsh voices, the Kempeitai, military police. The women moved fast. They pulled straw over Cal until only his face showed. The teenage girl blew out the lantern. Darkness swallowed the barn. Cal held his breath. The footsteps came closer. A flashlight beam swept across the barn wall. It cut through gaps in the wooden slats. The beam moved slowly back and forth. Cal could see the light dance across the straw inches from his face. The older woman stood and walked toward the door. She called out in Japanese. Her voice sounded calm, almost bored. She was talking to the soldiers outside, asking them something casual. Cal heard male voices respond. The flashlight beam held steady on the barn door. Then it moved away. The footsteps continued past the barn, fading into the distance. Nobody moved for a long time. Finally, the teenage girl lit the lantern again. Her hands still shook. The woman with glasses leaned against the wall. She looked like she might be sick. The older woman returned and knelt beside Cal. She met his eyes. She said something in Japanese. Her tone was firm, almost defiant. Cal did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She had just lied to soldiers to save his life. All three of them had. Cal stared at her in disbelief. He was black. He was American. He was their enemy. Yet here they were risking execution to hide him. Nothing he had been taught about the Japanese prepared him for this. The woman tied off the last bandage on his leg. Then she stood and spoke quietly to the others. They nodded. The teenage girl placed a cup of water near Cal's hand. Then they all sat back against the barn wall, waiting, listening, ready to hide him again if the soldiers returned. Cal woke to pale light filtering through the barn slats. His mouth tasted like copper. His leg throbbed with a deep ache. He tried to remember where he was. Then everything came back. The crash, the women, the soldiers. He was still alive. The older woman sat near the door. She had not slept, Cal could tell from her posture. She kept watch all night. When she saw him awake, she stood and approached with a clay cup. Water. Cal tried to sit up. The movement sent pain through his ribs. He gasped. The woman steadied him with one hand. She held the cup to his lips with the other. Cal drank. The water was cool and slightly bitter. He had never tasted anything better. The woman with glasses entered through a side door. She carried a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Food, rice balls, and something pickled. She set it down carefully and then knelt beside Cal. She looked at him closely. Her expression was cautious but curious. She said something in broken English. The words came slowly, carefully chosen. Cal barely caught them. "You American?" Cal nodded. His voice came out rough. "Yes." The woman looked relieved. She spoke in Japanese to the older woman. Then she turned back to Cal. She pointed at herself. "Hana." Then she pointed at the older woman. "Aiko." Cal tried to repeat the names. His pronunciation was wrong, but they nodded anyway. The teenage girl entered with more water. Hana pointed at her. Keiko. Cal nodded at each of them. He wanted to thank them, but did not know how. Instead, he asked the question burning in his mind. Why help me? Hana frowned. She thought for a moment. Then she spoke in halting English mixed with Japanese. Cal understood only pieces. Something about soldiers. Something about their own village. Fear. Death. Aiko interrupted. She spoke in rapid Japanese. Her voice was hard, angry, but not at Cal, at something else. Hana translated haltingly. Soldiers kill village man. Last week. He say no. They kill him. Cal stared. Your own soldiers? Hana nodded. She touched her chest. Her eyes were fierce. We afraid. Them. Not you. The words hit Cal hard. These women feared their own military more than they feared him. An enemy pilot who had bombed their country. The propaganda had told him Japanese civilians were fanatics, that they would die for their emperor, that they hated all Americans. But these women just looked exhausted, trapped. Aiko spoke again. She pointed at the barn wall, then at the village beyond. Her meaning was clear. Soldiers were everywhere, watching everyone. Cal was not the only one in danger here. Keiko suddenly froze. She held up one hand. Everyone went silent. Footsteps outside. Closer this time, heavier, more deliberate. Aiko's face went hard. She grabbed the food bundle and shoved it under the straw. Hana pulled Cal down flat. Keiko moved to the door. She pressed her eye to a gap in the wood. The footsteps stopped right outside the barn. 3 soldiers stood in the farmyard. Cal saw them through the gap in the barn wall. They wore brown uniforms with rifles slung over their shoulders. One carried a clipboard. Another had a radio pack on his back. The third had a sword at his belt. An officer. The officer shouted toward the farmhouse. Aiko stood and straightened her clothing. She walked out of the barn slowly. Cal watched her go. She moved with calm dignity, like she faced soldiers every day. Maybe she did. Hana crouched beside Cal. She pressed one finger to her lips. Cal nodded. He barely breathed. Through the wall gap, he saw Aiko bow to the officer. The officer did not bow back. He asked her questions in rapid Japanese. Aiko answered each one calmly. Her face showed nothing. The officer gestured toward the barn. He said something about a parachute, about American pilots. Aiko shook her head. She pointed toward the mountains, then toward the road. She was lying, directing them away. The officer frowned. He did not believe her. He walked toward the barn. Hana grabbed more straw. She piled it over Cal until he could barely see. The straw smelled old and dusty. Cal fought the urge to cough. His injured leg cramped. He could not move. The barn door swung open. Sunlight poured in. The officer entered with one of the soldiers. Their boots sounded loud on the wooden floor. Cal heard them walking slowly around the barn, checking corners, prodding hay bales with rifle barrels. The officer said something. The soldier responded. They were getting closer. Cal saw a boot through the straw, 6 inches from his head. The boot stopped. It was so close Cal could see dried mud caked on the leather. He held perfectly still. His heart hammered against his ribs. The soldier said something to the officer. He sounded uncertain. The officer walked over. Both men stood directly above Cal now. One boot almost touched his hand. The officer knelt. He pushed some straw aside with his hand. Cal tensed, ready to fight, ready to die. But the straw the officer moved was 2 feet away, not quite close enough. The officer stood again. He said something that sounded like an order. The soldier responded. They turned toward the door. Then the officer stopped. He was staring at the floor near Cal's position. Cal could, not see what he was looking at. The officer knelt again, this time closer. He ran his finger across the wooden planks. When he stood up, his fingertip was red. Blood. The officer held up his hand. He showed it to the soldier. They both turned and stared at the straw pile where Cal hid. The officer barked something. The soldier unslung his rifle. They walked back toward the straw. Aiko appeared in the doorway. She called out in Japanese. Her voice was sharp, urgent. The officer turned to face her. She gestured wildly toward the house. She spoke rapidly, pointing, explaining something. The officer frowned. He looked at his bloody finger, then at Aiko. He said something harsh, demanding. Aiko nodded vigorously. She kept talking. She pointed toward the back of the farmhouse. The officer looked suspicious, but he walked out of the barn. The soldier followed. Cal remained frozen under the straw. He heard them all walk away. Voices continued outside. The officer sounded angry. Aiko sounded insistent. Then Keiko's voice joined them. Young and nervous. More rapid Japanese. Footsteps running. 5 minutes passed. Keiko appeared in the barn doorway. She carried a wooden bucket. Dark liquid sloshed inside. She set it down carefully and then backed away. Blood. Pig's blood. Fresh enough to still drip. Hana uncovered Cal's face. She put one finger to her lips again. Cal nodded. His leg had started bleeding again. He could feel the wetness through the bandage. That was the blood on the floor. His blood. But now Aiko was convincing the soldiers it came from a pig. The officer returned to the barn. He looked at the bucket. He looked at Aiko. She pointed at the bucket. Then at the floor. Then at the back of the farmhouse. She explained something about wire, about cutting. The officer knelt and examined the blood on the floor again. He seemed to be comparing it to the blood in the bucket. He stood slowly. He said something to the soldier. The soldier lowered his rifle. The officer looked at Aiko for a long moment. His eyes were cold, calculating. He knew something was wrong. He just could not prove it. Finally he spoke. His tone was a warning. Aiko bowed deeply. The officer turned and walked out. The soldier followed. Both men crossed the farmyard. They spoke to each other in low voices, suspicious voices. But they kept walking. Past the house, past the rice fields, back toward the road. The radio operator trailed behind them. The patrol disappeared around a bend. Their voices faded into the distance. Nobody moved for several minutes. Then Aiko sagged against the barn door. Her calm mask cracked. She was shaking. Hana went to her, and they held each other. Keiko dropped to her knees. She started crying quietly, the fear finally catching up. Cal tried to sit up. Pain flared through his leg. He looked down. Blood soaked through the bandages completely. The wound had torn open when he tensed during the search. Hana saw it. She moved quickly to Cal's side. She unwrapped the ruined bandages. The wound looked bad, worse than before. It needed real medical attention. Medicine, stitches, things they did not have. Aiko came over. She looked at the wound and then at Cal's face. She said something firm in Japanese. Hana translated haltingly. "You stay, we hide, again." Cal shook his head. "They'll come back. They'll search harder. You'll all be killed." Hana did not translate that. She just looked at him steadily. Then she spoke in her broken English. "We already dead. If we do nothing, if we follow, if we stay quiet." She touched her chest. "This way we choose." Cal stared at her. He had no answer for that. These women had already lost everything. Their husbands, their sons, their freedom. Helping him was the first choice they had made in years. Maybe the only choice. Aiko began tearing more cloth for bandages, but before she could start wrapping Cal's leg again, his vision blurred. The blood loss finally caught up to him. He collapsed back onto the straw. The barn tilted and spun. He heard Hannah call his name. Then everything went dark. Cal woke to the smell of earth and old wood. He could not see. Darkness surrounded him completely. He tried to sit up and hit his head on something solid. Wood. A ceiling inches above his face. Panic seized his chest. "Stay quiet." Hannah's voice came from somewhere above, muffled. "Underfloor. Safe." Cal forced himself to breathe slowly. He was under the house, in a crawl space. He moved his hands carefully. The space was narrow, maybe 3 feet high. He could stretch out but barely turn over. His bandaged leg throbbed with each heartbeat. He heard footsteps above, light steps, then a door closing. Voices speaking Japanese. Aiko and Hana. They sounded calm, normal. Cal realized they were pretending everything was fine. Just 2 women doing housework. Nothing suspicious. A radio clicked on. Static crackled. Then a man's voice speaking Japanese. A broadcast. Cal caught a few words he recognized from training. America. Pilot. Baby. The voice grew louder, more angry. Cal understood. Propaganda. Lies about what American pilots did to Japanese civilians. More footsteps above. Something heavy scraped across the floor, right over Cal's hiding spot. A table, maybe, or a chest. The women were blocking the entrance to the crawl space, making it harder to find. Cal lay in the darkness and listened to the world above. Pots clanged. Water poured. The radio continued its hateful broadcast. He heard Aiko's voice respond to something. Tired, worn down. Hours passed. Or maybe just 1 hour. Time felt strange in the dark. Cal dozed off and woke again. Each time he woke, he had to remember where he was, why he could not move. The panic came back each time. He pushed it down. He thought about home, about his mother in Mississippi, about the segregated training base where white officers refused to believe black men could fly, about the restaurants that would not serve him, even in his uniform, about the MPs who beat him for walking past the white barracks. He had crossed an ocean to fight for a country that treated him worse than these Japanese women treated him now. The irony was so thick he almost laughed. Almost. His throat felt too tight. The radio above switched to music, scratchy and distant, a Japanese song, sad and slow. Then it cut off. Aiko said something. Hana responded. Their voices sounded strained. Cal heard a new sound. Soft, high-pitched. Someone crying. Keiko. The teenage girl who found him. She was breaking down. Cal heard Aiko speak gently to her. Comforting. But Keiko's crying continued. Muffled now. She must have buried her face in something. Cal closed his eyes in the darkness. He had done this to them. Brought danger to their door. They were good people. They did not deserve this. He wished he could tell them to just turn him in. Save themselves. But he knew they would refuse. They had already chosen. The crying above faded. Footsteps moved away. A door opened and closed. Silence settled over the house. Cal lay in his dark hole and tried not to think about what would happen if the soldiers came back, if they searched more carefully, if they found him. If they found him, the women would die. Slowly, publicly, as an example, he had heard the stories. Cal's hand found the cloth bag Hana had given him before they moved him. Inside was rice, a small canteen, a strip of dried fish, enough for maybe 2 days. After that he would have to leave, or die here. Above him the house creaked and settled. Night was falling. Cal heard distant voices outside. Villagers calling to each other. A child laughing. Normal life continuing while he hid beneath their feet. A secret that could destroy them all. He tried to sleep, but his mind would not stop. It kept returning to one question. Why? Why would these women risk everything for him? He was nobody to them. He was their enemy. But they had seen something in him that mattered more than nations or war. They had seen someone's son, someone worth saving, even if it cost them everything. Cal understood then. This was not just mercy. This was resistance, the only kind left to them. They could not fight the soldiers, could not speak against the war, could not save their own husbands and sons, but they could save him. One life, one small act of defiance against the machine crushing them all. He would not let them die for that choice. Somehow he would find a way out. He had to. The floorboard above Cal lifted. Dim lamplight spilled into the crawl space. Hannah peered down. She gestured for him to stay quiet. Then she lowered a small book wrapped in cloth. A school primer. Japanese and English side by side. Children's book for teaching languages. Cal took it carefully. Hannah also lowered a stub of pencil. She smiled briefly. Then she replaced the floorboard. But she stayed there. He could hear her breathing above him. She began to speak. Slowly. In Japanese, pointing at the floorboards, teaching him words. Yuka. Floor. Cal repeated it. His pronunciation was terrible. Hannah corrected him gently. They continued. Door, wall, house, night. She taught him simple words, basic things. Cal tried to memorize them. His mind felt fuzzy from pain, but he focused. Language was connection, understanding. Right now it might be survival. After an hour, Hannah asked him something in English. You life? America? Cal understood. She wanted to know about his life, about America. He thought about what to say, how to explain. Finally, he spoke quietly toward the floorboards above. I'm from Mississippi, the South. I wanted to fly since I was a boy. Watched crop dusters, dreamed about it. Hannah made a sound, encouraging him to continue. But black men weren't allowed to be pilots, not in the army. They said we weren't smart enough, weren't brave enough. Cal's voice went bitter. They let us clean toilets, shine boots, but not fly. Silence above. Then Hannah spoke carefully. But you fly, you hear? Yeah, took a war to change their minds. Finally trained us, put us in our own squadron, separate from white pilots, separate barracks, separate mess hall, even separate mechanics. Cal paused. I fought 2 wars, one over here, one back home. More silence. Then Aiko's voice, older, firmer. Hannah must have called her over. Aiko asked something in Japanese. Hannah translated. She say, propaganda tell us black American men are savage, animals, not human. Hannah paused. You not sound like animal. Cal almost laughed, but it came out more like a sob. That's what they told you? We're the animals? Yes. They told us Japanese people were fanatics, monsters, that you'd kill yourselves before showing mercy, that you hated all Americans. Cal shook his head even though they could not see. But here you are, risking your lives for me. Aiko spoke again. Longer this time, more passionate. Hannah translated haltingly. She say, we told many lies, by our government, that war is glory, that emperor is God, that we must give everything, everything. Hannah's voice shook. Her husband die, not for Japan, for lie. Big lie. Cal closed his eyes. These women understood, maybe better than anyone back home. They knew what it meant to be used, to be told you were serving something greater while powerful men got rich and safe. The propaganda was different. The languages were different. But the machinery of war ground up ordinary people the same everywhere. They talked until late. Cal shared pieces of home. Church on Sunday, his mother's cooking, the river where he swam as a boy. Hannah translated for Aiko. They shared their own stories, rice harvest, festival days, songs their grandmothers taught them. For a few hours they were not enemies, just people. talking, connecting. Then they all heard it, marching, in the distance, getting closer, many feet moving in formation, soldiers, coming down the road, coming toward the village. The lamplight above went out. The floorboard settled back into place. Cal heard urgent whispers. Then nothing. Just the sound of boots. Getting closer. Cal woke to the floorboard lifting again. No lamplight this time, just darkness and Aiko's voice. Urgent. Whispered. She said something in Japanese. Hana's face appeared next to hers. Soldiers! They come back. Morning. Search hills, search houses, everything. Cal's stomach dropped. You have to turn me in, before they find me here. Save yourselves. No. Aiko's voice was firm even through the language barrier. She said something else. Hana translated. She say you are someone's son. She not let another mother lose son, not anymore. Cal felt his throat tighten. He tried to argue, but Aiko was already moving. She and Hana pulled the table aside. They lifted another board. The opening was wider now. They gestured for Cal to come up. He crawled out slowly. His leg screamed with pain. The room spun. He had been lying still too long. Keiko appeared with a cup of water. Cal drank. The water helped clear his head. Aiko spread a cloth on the floor. She placed items on it carefully. Rice wrapped in leaves, 2 sweet potatoes, a small bundle of dried fish, their rations, their food for the week. She was giving it all to him. No, I can't take your food. Hana shook her head. You need, for journey. What journey? Hana pointed toward the mountains. We take you, tonight, before soldiers come, hide in hills, then fishermen, he take you to water, to American boats. Cal looked at them all. 3 women willing to risk everything. Again. Aiko's face was set, determined. Hana looked frightened but resolute. Keiko was crying quietly, but she nodded. They had already decided. If they catch you helping me escape, they'll kill you all. If they catch you here, they kill us anyway. Hana's English was getting better under pressure. This way we try, we choose. There was that word again. Choose. The only freedom they had left. Cal realized he could not take that from them. If he refused, he would make them victims instead of heroes. They needed this. They needed to believe one act of mercy could matter, that their choice could make a difference, even if it killed them. He nodded slowly. Okay, when do we leave? Now. Aiko said it in English, the only English word she knew. Now. They moved fast. Keiko helped Cal stand. His leg barely held his weight. They wrapped him in a farmer's coat. Too small, but it hid his American flight suit. Aiko put out the lamp. Hana opened the door slightly. She checked outside. The village was dark. Silent. Hana gestured. They moved. Cal limped between Keiko and Aiko. Hana led the way through the back garden, past the barn, toward the rice fields. The moon was only a sliver, barely enough light to see. They walked slowly, carefully. Cal's leg throbbed with every step. He tried not to make noise, but he could not help small gasps of pain. Keiko squeezed his hand, encouraging. They reached the edge of the rice fields. Hana pointed toward a path leading into the hills. Dark, narrow, hidden by trees. They started up the path. The climb was steep. Cal had to stop every few minutes. His vision blurred. Aiko whispered something to Hana. They were worried. He was too weak. The journey might kill him. But they kept going. One step. Another. The village fell away behind them. Cal looked back once. He saw the small houses, the barn where they hid him, the rice fields he crashed in. It all looked peaceful, quiet. Then he saw lights, flashlights, multiple beams sweeping through the village. The patrol was already here, Hours early, searching. They must have suspected something. Aiko saw the lights, too. She said something sharp in Japanese. Hana responded. Both women looked terrified. The flashlight beams moved toward Aiko's house. They had minutes at most. If the soldiers found the crawl space empty, they would know. They would search everywhere. And the path up the hill had no cover. If those flashlights turned this way, they would see 4 figures climbing. Clear targets. Cal heard voices below, shouting. Orders. Then the sound every fugitive dreads. Dogs. The soldiers had brought dogs. They would follow the scent. Find the trail. Find them all. Cal turned to the women. He started to say something, to tell them to run, to leave him. But before he could speak, they heard boots. Close, just behind them on the path. Heavy boots, moving fast. Someone was already coming up after them. The boots belonged to Nakamura, the old fisherman from the village. He grabbed Hana's arm and pulled them all off the path. Behind a cluster of rocks, his face was grim. He spoke rapidly in Japanese. Hana translated in gasps. Soldiers already at house. They know someone hid there. They bringing dogs up soon. Cal's heart hammered. The women had seconds to decide. Stay hidden with him and risk capture, or go back and claim ignorance. Maybe survive. Aiko made the choice. She pushed Cal toward Nakamura. She spoke firmly. Nakamura nodded. Then Aiko touched Cal's face, just once. Gentle. Her eyes said everything. Be safe. Live. Make this worth it. Then she was gone, running back down the path with Keiko, heading toward the village, toward the soldiers. Hana hesitated. She looked at Cal, then at Nakamura. The fisherman grabbed her shoulder. He said something harsh. Hana nodded. She stayed. Nakamura led them higher into the hills, away from the path, through thick brush that tore at Cal's skin. His legs screamed. He bit down on a cloth to keep from crying out. They climbed for 20 minutes. Then Nakamura stopped. He pointed to a small cave, hidden by vines. They crawled inside. The cave was shallow, damp. It smelled of earth and stone, but it was hidden. They could see the path below through the vines. Nakamura and Hana sat breathing hard. Cal collapsed against the cave wall. His leg was bleeding again. They heard the dogs, barking, getting closer. Through the vines, Cal saw soldiers with flashlights moving up the path. 6 men, maybe more. The dogs pulled at their leashes, straining toward something, following a scent. But then the dogs stopped. They turned around, confused. The soldiers shouted at them, pulled the leashes. The dogs whined and circled. They had lost the trail. Cal realized why. Aiko and Keiko running back down had covered the scent, confused the dogs, given them false trails to follow. The soldiers searched for another hour. They moved past the cave. So close Cal could see their faces. Young men, tired, frustrated. They wanted to find someone, anyone, to justify the search, to prove their suspicions right. But they found nothing. Finally, the officer called them back. The patrol retreated down the path. The dogs barked a few more times. Then silence. Morning light filtered through the trees. Birds started singing. The world pretended everything was normal. Nakamura waited until the sun was fully up. Then he gestured. They had to move again. The cave was temporary. The soldiers would come back. Search more carefully. They needed distance. Cal tried to stand. His leg gave out. Nakamura caught him. The old fisherman was stronger than he looked. He pulled Cal's arm over his shoulder. Hana took the other side. Together they half-carried him deeper into the hills, away from the village, away from Aiko and Keiko. Cal wanted to go back, to make sure the women were safe, but he knew that was impossible. Going back would only get them all killed. The best thing he could do was survive. Make their sacrifice mean something. They walked until noon. Nakamura led them to an old fishing shed, hidden in a valley, near a stream. The shed was abandoned, half collapsed, but it had a roof, walls. It was shelter. They went inside. Hana unwrapped Cal's leg. The wound looked infected, red, swollen. She had no medicine, no clean bandages, just water from the stream. She washed it as best she could. Cal gritted his teeth against the pain. Nakamura spoke to Hana. She translated. He say soldiers arrested 2 village men this morning, for suspicion. They looking for anyone who might know about American pilot. Cal closed his eyes. Aiko? Keiko? He not know? He run to warn us before he see. Cal felt sick. Not from the infection, from guilt. Those women were probably being interrogated right now. Maybe tortured. Because of him. Because they showed mercy. Hana seemed to read his thoughts. She touched his shoulder. They choose. You not force. They choose to be human. In war, that make us human. Nothing else matter. Cal wanted to believe that. He tried to hold on to it, but all he could see was Aiko's face, the way she touched his cheek before running back. Toward danger. For him. Nakamura said something else. Hana translated. He say we stay here 2 days, then he take you to boat. Tide must be right. Moon must be dark. 2 days. 2 days hiding in this shed. 2 days, wondering if Aiko and Keiko were alive. 2 days watching his leg get worse. Cal nodded. What choice did he have? Nakamura left to get supplies. He would come back at nightfall. Hana sat against the shed wall. She looked exhausted, scared, but also determined. She pulled out the school primer. She showed Cal more words, trying to stay focused, trying not to think about what was happening in the village below. Cal repeated the words. But his mind was far away, back in that farmhouse, under those floorboards, listening to 3 women risk everything for a stranger, for an enemy, for someone who should have meant nothing to them. He would remember them. If he survived, he would tell everyone. He would make sure their story was known, that their courage was not forgotten, that 3 Japanese women in a small village proved something the war tried to destroy, that humanity could break through, even in hell. The shed had no windows, just gaps between the boards. Sunlight came through in thin lines. Cal watched the lines move across the dirt floor. Counting time. Minutes felt like hours. His leg throbbed. The infection was spreading. He could feel heat radiating from the wound. Fever was coming. Maybe already here. He drifted in and out of consciousness. Dreams mixed with memory. He was back in training. Tuskegee, Alabama. The white mechanics refused to service his plane. Said they would not touch equipment flown by colored boys. Cal had to learn to do his own repairs. Learned every bolt, every wire, every system. Because no one would help him. Because the men who should have been brothers saw only skin color. He woke. Hana was pressing a wet cloth to his forehead. The cloth was cool. She spoke softly in Japanese. Cal did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. Comfort. Care. She was trying to help. Through the wall gaps, Cal heard distant sounds. Trucks on roads, dogs barking, voices shouting. The search continued. The village was under occupation now. Every house checked. Every person questioned. All because 1 pilot survived. All because 3 women refused to obey. Cal wondered if his squadron knew he was alive. Probably not. Eli's plane went down too. They probably marked them both as killed in action. His mother would get a telegram. We regret to inform you. Her only son, dead over Japan. She would never know he survived this long. Never know about the women who saved him. Unless he lived. Unless he got back. Unless he told the story. Hana opened a small bundle. Food from last night. Rice balls. She offered one to Cal. He shook his head. She needed to eat too, but she insisted, pushed it into his hand. Gentle but firm. She said something in Japanese, then in English. Eat, stay strong, for them. For Aiko, for Keiko, for all of them. Cal took the rice ball. It tasted bland, plain, but it was food, energy, life. He forced himself to swallow, to keep it down. His stomach was not happy, but he managed. The day crawled forward. Heat built inside the shed. Cal's fever rose. He saw things that were not there. His mother standing in the corner, his commander reading casualty reports, white soldiers laughing at him, Aiko kneeling in blood. Hana kept the cloth cool, kept his forehead wet. She sang something under her breath, a Japanese lullaby maybe, or a prayer. Cal could not tell. The melody was sad, beautiful. It reminded him of church hymns back home. Different language, same sorrow, same hope. Afternoon light turned golden, then orange, then red. Sunset was coming. Nakamura would return soon, or he would not. Maybe soldiers caught him. Maybe he decided the risk was too great. Cal would not blame him. An old fisherman had no reason to die for an American pilot. But as darkness fell, Cal heard footsteps. Light, careful. The shed door opened slowly. Nakamura slipped inside. He carried a sack, food, water, clean cloth for bandages. He looked at Cal's leg and frowned. He said something to Hana. His tone was worried. Hana unwrapped the wound. Even in dim light, Cal could see it was bad. Green pus, red streaks spreading up his leg, blood poisoning. Without antibiotics, he would die. Maybe in days, maybe in a week. But he would die. Nakamura spoke urgently. Hana translated. He say we must go tomorrow night. Not wait 2 days. Your leg too bad. You need American doctors. You need medicine. We go tomorrow or never. Cal nodded. Tomorrow night. 1 more day to survive. 1 more day for the infection to spread. But also 1 more day closer to rescue, to survival, to getting home, to telling Aiko's story. Nakamura left again. He would prepare the boat, get supplies, check the tides. Tomorrow night when the moon rose, they would sail. If Cal lived that long. If the soldiers did not find them first. If the tide was right. If the war gave them 1 small mercy. Too many ifs. But Cal had learned something in this shed. In this war. In this whole nightmare. Sometimes hope was not about certainty. It was about choosing to believe anyway. About taking the next step even when the outcome was unclear. About having faith that 1 act of courage could ripple outward, could change things, could matter. The women believed that. They chose to believe it, and they paid the price. Cal would not let that payment be wasted. He would survive. He had to. Their story had to be told. Their names had to be remembered. Aiko, Hana, Keiko. 3 women who proved the propaganda wrong, who showed that enemies could be family, that strangers could be saviors, that humanity could survive even in the darkest war. Cal closed his eyes. He felt the fever burning through him. But under the fever, under the pain, under the fear, he felt something else, determination, purpose, the will to live, not for himself, for them. Tomorrow night. 1 more day. He could make it. He would make it. He had to. Rain hammered the shed roof. Thunder rolled across the valley. Nakamura arrived at dusk. He looked grim. The rain was both blessing and curse. It would wash away their tracks, hide their scent from dogs, but it also made the path dangerous, slippery, and the river would be high, fast, difficult to cross. Hana wrapped Cal's leg in the cleanest cloth they had. The infection had spread. His fever was worse. He could barely stand. But they had no choice. Tonight or never. Nakamura said the soldiers were expanding their search, moving into the hills. They had maybe 6 hours before the patrols reached this valley. They left the shed. The rain soaked them immediately. Cold. Heavy. Cal shivered despite his fever. Hana and Nakamura supported him on both sides. They moved slowly down the muddy path. Each step was agony. Cal's leg felt like fire. His vision blurred, but he kept moving. 1 foot, then another. Focus on the next step. Nothing else. The path led through rice terraces, stepped fields carved into the hillside. The rain had turned them into small waterfalls. Water rushed down from level to level. The sound was deafening. They could not hear if anyone followed, could not hear warnings, could not hear danger until it was too late. Nakamura led them to a narrow bridge, just wooden planks across a stream. The stream was now a torrent. Brown water churned beneath the boards. The bridge swayed. Nakamura crossed first. Testing. The planks held. He gestured for Hana to come. She crossed carefully, holding the rope railing, then Cal. He stepped onto the bridge. The wood was slick. His bad leg nearly gave out. He grabbed the rope, pulled himself forward. The bridge lurched. A plank cracked beneath his foot. He froze. Nakamura shouted something. Cal could not hear over the water, but he understood. Move. Now. Cal lunged forward. The broken plank fell into the water. He made it to the other side. Barely. Hana caught him. They stood in the rain, breathing hard. Behind them, the bridge swayed. 1 more plank broke loose. The whole thing would collapse soon. No one could follow that way now. That was good. But it also meant they could not go back, only forward. They entered the forest. Thick trees blocked some of the rain. But the path was mud. Deep. Sucking. Cal's boots stuck with every step. Nakamura had to pull him free, again and again. Progress was painfully slow. The river path should take an hour. At this pace, it would take 3, maybe 4. Lightning flashed. In that brief light, Cal saw the path ahead. Washed out. A section had collapsed. Mudslide. They would have to go around, through dense brush, off the path entirely. Nakamura cursed in Japanese. Rare for the quiet old fisherman, this was bad. They pushed into the brush. Thorns tore at their clothes, their skin. Cal's fever made everything feel distant, dreamlike. He was back in Mississippi, running through woods as a boy, playing with his friends. Then he was in the cockpit, smoke filling his lungs. Then he was in the barn. Aiko's face above him, concerned, kind. Hana slapped his cheek, gently, bringing him back. He had stopped moving, standing still in the rain, dying on his feet. She said something urgent. He nodded, forced his legs to move. They broke through the brush, found the path again, lower down the hill. The river was ahead. Cal heard it, loud, angry, swollen from rain. They emerged from the trees. The riverbank was visible in occasional lightning flashes. The water was high, much higher than normal. It had swallowed the usual crossing point. Nakamura pointed upstream. There was another place. Rocks. Normally you could step across. Maybe now too. Maybe. They followed the bank. The rain was easing slightly. Not much, but enough. Cal could see a little better. The rocks were there, big boulders creating natural steps, but water rushed between them, white, churning. 1 slip would mean death, swept downstream, drowned, lost. Nakamura went first again. He jumped from rock to rock, nimble despite his age. Years of fishing made him sure-footed. He made it across. He turned and gestured. Hana next. She hesitated. She was not strong, not athletic, just a schoolteacher, but she jumped, made the first rock, then the second. The water grabbed at her feet. She wobbled but kept going, made it to the 3rd rock, then the 4th. Then she was across. Safe. Cal stared at the rocks. At the water. His leg would not hold. He knew it. One jump and he would fall. But there was no other way. The boat was on the other side. Escape was on the other side. Life was on the other side. He jumped. His good leg hit the first rock, held. He leaped again. To the second rock. His bad leg landed, buckled. He fell sideways, into the water. The current grabbed him, pulled. He went under. Cold. Black. Rushing. He could not tell which way was up. His lungs burned. This was how he died. Not in combat. Not in execution. But drowning in a Japanese river. Saved by kindness only to die in the dark. Hands grabbed his collar. Pulled. Hard. He broke the surface. Gasped. Nakamura had jumped back into the water. The old man dragged Cal toward the bank. Hana reached down, grabbed Cal's arm. Together they hauled him out. Onto mud, onto solid ground. Cal coughed up water. His whole body shook. From cold, from fever, from near death. But he was alive. Still alive. Nakamura collapsed beside him, breathing hard. Too hard. The exertion had cost him, but he managed a small smile. They had made it, across the river, away from the patrols, one step closer to the boat, one step closer to freedom. They lay in the mud in the rain, exhausted, spent, but alive. The shed smelled of fish and salt. Old nets hung from the ceiling. Broken traps lined the walls. This was Nakamura's place, his work shed, hidden in rocks near a small cove. The ocean was close. Cal could hear waves, smell brine. They had made it. Nakamura lit a tiny lamp, just enough light to see. He checked Cal's leg. The bandages were soaked, filthy from the river water. The wound was exposed, red, oozing. Nakamura shook his head. He spoke to Hana in Japanese. His tone was grave. Hana looked at Cal. He say infection very bad. You need boat tonight, not wait. Tonight or you die. Cal nodded. He could feel it, the poison spreading. His whole leg was hot, swollen, painful even to look at. Death was close now, following him. Patient, waiting. But Nakamura was worried about something else too. He spoke urgently, kept gesturing toward the village. Hana's face fell as she listened. She turned to Cal. He say soldiers arrest 2 men yesterday for helping enemy. They take them to garrison. No one see them since. Cal's stomach dropped. Does he know about Aiko, Keiko? Hana asked. Nakamura responded slowly, carefully. Hana translated. He see them. 3 days ago. Soldiers questioned them. Long time. They hit Aiko, but then they let them go. He think maybe because they women? Maybe soldiers not believe women could hide pilot. Relief flooded through Cal. They were alive. Bruised. Questioned. But alive. He let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Thank God. But Hana was not finished. He say Keiko's brother still looking. The informant. He know something wrong. He watch his sister. Watch Aiko. He not give up. So they were not safe. Not really. Just temporarily free. Waiting for the next arrest, the next interrogation. Living in fear. Because of him. Because they chose mercy. Nakamura stood. He went to the corner of the shed. He pulled back some nets. Underneath was a small wooden boat. Old. Patched, but seaworthy. He had hidden it here. Ready. He spoke again, explaining the plan. Hana translated. Tonight we go. When tide goes out, moon is small, sky dark. He take you north, along coast, to American-controlled water, near Okinawa. Maybe 2 days, maybe 3. Depend on weather, on patrols. Cal looked at the old fisherman. You'll be caught. They'll know you helped me. They'll kill you. Nakamura smiled. Sad but real. He said something short. Hana translated. He say his son die in war. His wife die in bombing. He have nothing left. If he die helping someone live, then he die for good reason. Better than dying for emperor, for war, for nothing. Cal felt tears in his eyes. Maybe from fever. Maybe from something else. These people, these strangers, they had nothing. They had lost everything. Yet they gave what little remained. For him, an enemy, a foreigner, someone they had no reason to love. But they did. They saw him as human, as worth saving. And that made all the difference. Nakamura pushed the boat back under the nets. He gestured for them to rest. To sleep, if possible. They had hours until dark. Until the tide was right. Cal lay down on the floor, his head on a coil of rope. He closed his eyes, but sleep would not come. His leg hurt too much. His fever made him restless. His mind would not stop spinning. He thought about Aiko standing between him and the rifles, about Keiko's terrified face when she confessed to her brother, about Hana teaching him words by lamplight, about Nakamura dragging him from the river, about all of them choosing courage when surrender would be easier, when silence would be safer, when looking away would cost them nothing. But they did not look away. They saw suffering, and they acted. They saw injustice, and they resisted. They saw an enemy, and they chose to see a human being instead. That was the real war. Not between nations, not between races, not between armies, but between those who chose cruelty and those who chose mercy, between those who accepted hate and those who insisted on love, between those who followed orders and those who followed conscience. Cal knew which side these people were on. He knew what they represented. And if he lived, if he survived, if he made it home, he would spend the rest of his life making sure the world knew it too. That Japanese people were not monsters, that the enemy had names and faces and hearts, that propaganda lied, that war destroyed, but that humanity endured, even in the darkest places, even in the worst times, even when everything seemed lost. Humanity endured. He had seen it, lived it. These people proved it, and he would never forget. Cal woke to voices, loud, angry, outside the shed. He sat up fast. Pain shot through his leg. Hana was already at the door, peeking through a gap. Her face went pale. Nakamura grabbed a fishing knife. He positioned himself between Cal and the door. Ready. The voices grew louder. Boots on rocks, multiple people, coming closer. The door burst open. Keiko stumbled inside. Her face was swollen, one eye bruised, blood on her lip. Behind her stood her brother. The Kempetai informant, a young man, maybe 20. His uniform was neat. His expression was cold, hard. He carried no weapon, but his posture was threatening. He spoke in Japanese, harsh, demanding. Keiko fell to her knees. She was crying, shaking. She spoke rapidly, begging. Her brother ignored her. He looked around the shed. His eyes found Cal. He smiled, cruel, satisfied. He turned to Nakamura. Spoke again. This time his tone was almost friendly, conversational, but the menace underneath was clear. Hana translated in whispers. He say he know everything. Keiko tell him. Where you hide? Who help you? All of it. Hana paused. He say he not report yet. He want to make deal. Cal's blood went cold. A deal. That meant leverage. That meant demands. Nothing good came from deals with men who beat their sisters. The brother spoke again. Longer, this time. He gestured at Keiko, at Nakamura, at Hana. His meaning was clear. Hana's voice shook as she translated. He say if we give you to him now, he tell commanders he find you himself. He take credit. He not mention his sister, not mention us. We all safe. You only one die. Silence filled the shed. Keiko sobbed into her hands. Nakamura gripped his knife tighter. Hana looked at Cal. Her eyes were tortured. The choice was impossible. One life or many. One stranger or 3 villagers. The math was simple. Cold. Brutal. Cal spoke before anyone else could. Tell him yes. Tell him to take me. Let everyone else go. No. Hana's English was sharp, clear. No deal. The brother laughed. He said something mocking. Hana did not translate, but Cal understood the tone. The brother thought they were weak, foolish, sentimental. He thought emotion would make them cooperate, make them surrender. He was wrong. Nakamura stepped forward. He spoke in Japanese, quiet but firm. The brother's smile faded. They argued back and forth. Keiko kept crying. Finally, the brother made a gesture. Dismissive. Final. He turned toward the door. Keiko grabbed his leg. She pulled him back. She spoke through tears. Desperate, pleading. The brother tried to shake her off, but she held on. She said something that made him freeze. His face went rigid. He looked down at his sister, really looked at her, for the first time. She spoke again. Softer now. Broken. Cal did not need translation. He understood. She was telling her brother what the soldiers did, what they took from the village, who they hurt, why she stopped believing, why she chose to help an enemy instead of trusting her own side. The brother's face cracked. Just slightly, just for a moment. He was young. Cal saw that now. Young and scared and trying to survive the only way he knew. By following orders, by proving loyalty, by becoming hard before the war made him soft, before it broke him. But Keiko's words found something, some small piece of the boy he used to be, before the uniform, before the propaganda, before the fear turned into cruelty. He stood there looking at his sister, at the bruise he had given her, at the blood on her lip, at the tears running down her face, and something in him wavered. He spoke, quietly, to Keiko. She looked up, surprised. He repeated it. Then he turned to Nakamura, said something short. Nakamura's eyes widened. The brother looked at Cal. His expression was complicated now. Not cold anymore, not cruel, just tired, defeated, sad. He turned and walked out. Alone, without Cal, without Keiko, without anyone. He just left. The door swung shut behind him. Silence settled over the shed. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Finally, Hana whispered, "He say he not tell. He say he see nothing. He say sister dead to him now. He not protect her, but he not report her. He just go. Pretend today never happen." Keiko collapsed. Relief and grief mixed together. She had lost her brother, but she had saved them all. The price was high. The cost was real, but she paid it, because she chose what was right over what was easy, what was human over what was safe. Nakamura helped her up. He spoke gently, led her to sit. She buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook, but she was alive. They were all alive. For now. Cal watched her, this teenage girl who found him in a rice field, who brought him water, who stood with Aiko against the rifles, who just gave up her family to save a stranger. He wanted to tell her thank you, wanted to tell her she was brave, that she was good, that she mattered. But words felt small, insufficient. Nothing he could say would match what she had done. So he just met her eyes, nodded once. Serious, solemn, a promise. If he lived, he would remember. He would tell her story. He would make sure the world knew what she sacrificed, what she chose, what she proved about the human heart. She nodded back, understanding. Then she turned away, still crying, still broken, but somehow still standing. Nakamura spoke, pointing at the sky. The day was moving. They had lost time. The brother might not report them, but other patrols were still searching. They needed to leave, soon, before luck ran out, before mercy turned into tragedy. Tonight, the boat, the ocean, escape. If they could make it that long, if the infection did not kill Cal first, if the soldiers did not find them, if the war gave them one last chance, too many ifs, But Cal was learning. Sometimes ifs were all you had, and sometimes, just sometimes. That was enough. Cal woke to shouting. He was on the floor of the shed, alone. The shouting came from outside, Japanese, angry, multiple voices, boots, lots of them, surrounding the shed. The door exploded inward. Soldiers poured in, 5, 6, maybe more. They grabbed Cal before he could move, dragged him outside into gray morning light. His leg screamed. He cried out. The soldiers ignored him. Nakamura was on his knees in the rocks, hands behind his head, blood running from his nose. 2 soldiers stood over him. One had a rifle pressed to the old man's back. Nakamura met Cal's eyes. His expression was sad but calm. He had known this might happen. He had made peace with it. Hana was there too, restrained by a soldier. Her glasses were broken, hanging from one ear. She was not hurt, not yet. But the soldier holding her looked eager, violent, waiting for orders. An officer emerged from behind the shed. Tall, thin, his uniform was crisp, clean, his face was sharp, intelligent, cruel. He walked over to Cal, studied him, then he spoke in perfect English. "American pilot, we have been looking for you." Cal said nothing. The officer smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "You have caused much trouble, much disruption. Innocent people have suffered because of you." He gestured at Nakamura, at Hana. "These traitors will die because of you." "They didn't," Cal started. The officer hit him, open-handed, sharp. Cal's head snapped sideways, his vision blurred. The officer spoke again, calm, controlled. "You do not speak, you listen." He walked around Cal slowly. "We know a woman hid you. Old woman, Aiko. We know a teacher helped, Hana. We know a fisherman planned to smuggle you, Nakamura. We know all of it." Cal's heart sank. Keiko's brother. He had reported them after all. The moment of mercy was fake. A trick. A trap. They were all dead now. Because Cal believed. Because he had hope. Because he thought humanity could win. The officer continued. "The girl, Keiko, she is being questioned now. She will tell us everything, every detail, every moment." He paused. "Her brother is very thorough." Cal felt sick, but the officer was not done. "You will be taken to the village. You will be executed publicly, as an example, as a lesson. Your helpers will watch, then they will join you." He smiled. "Justice will be served." 2 soldiers hauled Cal to his feet. They bound his hands behind his back. The rope cut into his wrists. They did the same to Nakamura, to Hana. Then they marched them all down the path, toward the village, toward death. The walk took an hour. Cal's fever made everything feel distant, unreal. He watched his feet move, one step, another, automatic. His mind drifted. He thought about his mother, about church bells, about flying, about freedom, things he would never have again. They reached the village. People were being forced out of their houses, into the central square, women, children, old men, everyone. The soldiers shouted orders. The villagers moved slowly, reluctantly. But they moved. They had no choice. Cal saw Aiko. She stood near the front of the crowd. Her face was bruised. One arm hung stiff. Broken, maybe. But she stood tall, defiant. When she saw Cal, she did not look away, did not show shame or regret. She met his eyes. Proud, certain. She had done the right thing. She knew it. Nothing the soldiers did could change that. Keiko was there too, also bruised. Her brother stood beside her. His face was stone, empty. He would not look at his sister, would not look at anyone. He had broken, surrendered, become what the army wanted, a tool, a weapon, a man without conscience or mercy. The soldiers pushed Cal to the center of the square. They tied him to a wooden post. The same post where they probably executed the man Aiko mentioned. The man who said no, who refused, who died for having principles. Now Cal would join him. Another body, another lesson, another warning about the price of defiance. The officer addressed the crowd. He spoke in Japanese, loud, clear, propaganda, lies about American devils, about the need for sacrifice, about loyalty to the emperor, about how helping the enemy meant betraying Japan. The crowd listened, silent, terrified, obedient. Aiko stepped forward. A soldier blocked her. She pushed past him, shouted something in Japanese. The crowd gasped. The officer turned. His face darkened. Aiko kept shouting, pointing at Cal, at the officer, at the soldiers. Her voice was fierce, unbroken. The soldiers struck her, hard. She fell, did not get up. Keiko screamed, tried to run to her. Her brother grabbed her arm, held her back. She fought him, screaming, crying. But he was stronger. He held on, his face still empty, still stone. The officer nodded to the soldiers. They formed a line, raised their rifles, aimed at Cal. This was it, the end. No rescue. No escape. No miracle. Just death in a village square. Far from home. Forgotten. Lost. Cal looked at the sky. It was gray, overcast, rain coming. He thought about the women who saved him, about Nakamura who tried, about all the people who chose mercy when hate would be easier, who chose hope when despair was safer, who chose to be human when the world demanded they be monsters. He was proud to die among them, proud to have known them, proud to have seen proof that the propaganda lied, that people were people, that borders and uniforms and languages did not matter. That, in the end, in the very end, what mattered was choice. What mattered was character. What mattered was whether you looked at suffering and turned away or stepped forward, whether you saw an enemy or saw someone's son. These people saw someone's son. They paid the price, but they did it anyway. And that meant something. That changed something. Even if Cal died here, even if they all died here, that truth would survive. That truth would spread. One person would tell another. The story would live. The choice would matter. Cal closed his eyes, waited for the shots, heard the officer give the command, heard rifles click, heard his own heartbeat, loud, slow, final. He thought of his mother one last time. Hoped she would understand, hoped she would be proud, hoped she would know he tried. He fought. He lived as long as he could. Goodbye, Mama. I love you. The rifles did not fire. Cal opened his eyes. The soldiers still aimed at him, but they had not pulled the triggers. Something was wrong. The officer was distracted, listening, his head tilted toward the north. Then Cal heard it. A sound he knew. Deep, droning, growing louder. Aircraft engines, American aircraft, lots of them, coming this way, coming fast. The officer shouted orders. The soldiers lowered their rifles, confused. The crowd looked up, everyone searching the gray sky. The sound grew deafening. Then they appeared. B-29 super fortresses, a whole formation, maybe 20 planes, flying low, too low. They were not passing over. They were coming in, for bombing, for attack. Air raid sirens started wailing. The officer screamed at his men. The soldiers scattered, running for shelters, for ditches, for anywhere to hide. The villagers panicked. People ran in every direction. Mothers grabbed children. Old men stumbled and fell. Chaos erupted. Cal was still tied to the post, forgotten, left behind in the rush. He pulled at the ropes. They held. He looked around desperately. The planes were almost overhead now. Bombs would fall any second. He would die here anyway, not by firing squad, by friendly fire. The irony was bitter. Then Aiko was there. She pulled herself up from the ground, limped toward Cal. Her face was bleeding. Her arm hung useless. But she reached him, started working at the ropes with her good hand. Her fingers fumbled. Too slow. The ropes were tight, knotted. She could not get them loose. Hana appeared, also freed in the chaos. She had a knife, small, dull, but sharp enough. She cut the ropes. Cal's hands came free. He fell forward. Hana caught him. Aiko supported his other side. Together they moved, away from the post, toward the edge of the square. The first bomb fell. It hit the garrison building. The explosion was massive. Fire and smoke erupted. The ground shook. Cal's ears rang. They kept moving, faster now. Adrenaline overriding pain, overriding fever, overriding everything. More bombs fell. Buildings exploded. Wood and stone flew through the air. Screams filled the gaps between explosions. The village was being destroyed, burned, flattened. Everything the soldiers wanted to protect. Everything they fought for. Turning to ash. Nakamura found them at the edge of the square. He was free too. He grabbed Cal's arm, pointed toward the river, away from the bombing. They ran, or tried to. Cal could barely walk. His leg gave out. Nakamura caught him, pulled him up. They kept going. Behind them the village burned. Ahead was forest. Cover. Safety. They reached the trees, kept running. The bombing continued. The ground shook with each impact. Trees swayed. Birds scattered into the smoke-filled sky. They ran until they could not run anymore. Collapsed in a clearing. Breathing hard. Coughing from smoke. But alive. Somehow still alive. The bombing was farther away now, moving south, toward military targets. The village was already hit, already destroyed. The planes moved on. Silence settled over the forest, broken only by distant explosions and crackling flames. Cal lay on the ground, staring at the gray sky. He could not believe it, could not process it. Minutes ago he was about to be executed. Now he was free. The timing was impossible, too perfect, almost miraculous. Aiko sat beside him. She said something in Japanese, soft, tired, grateful. Hana translated. She say maybe gods look out for us today. Maybe someone pray hard enough. Maybe we deserve to live. Hana paused. She not know, but she glad. Cal was glad too, grateful beyond words. But he also felt the weight of it. The village was destroyed. People had died. The bombing saved him but killed others. Innocent people, civilians, families, children maybe. The moral calculus was impossible, horrible. War did that. Made every survival cost someone else. Made every life saved come at the price of other lives. There was no clean victory, no simple justice, just messy, complicated, painful survival. But they were alive, and the soldiers were scattered. And for the first time in days, Cal had a real chance, a real path to escape. The chaos had created opportunity, given them time, given them hope. Nakamura spoke, urgent. Hana translated. He say we must go now, while soldiers confused, while smoke cover us. We go to boat now, leave while we can. Cal nodded. He tried to stand. His leg buckled. Nakamura pulled him up again. Aiko took his other side. Hana led the way, and Keiko. She was there too. Cal had not seen her arrive, but she was with them now. She had chosen. Chosen them over her brother, over her village, over everything she knew. She was coming with them, to the boat, to the ocean, to whatever came next. They moved through the forest, toward the coast, toward escape. The smoke followed them, covered their trail, hid them from patrols. The bombing had given them a gift, dark, terrible, stained with blood. But a gift, nonetheless. A chance to live, to escape, to survive. They would take it. They had no choice. Survival was not always noble, was not always fair, but it was all they had. And sometimes, in war, that had to be enough. They made it halfway to the coast before the patrols regrouped. Cal heard dogs first. Then voices. Soldiers searching the forest, looking for survivors, for looters, for anyone who fled the village. The group stopped, hid behind thick brush. They barely breathed. A patrol passed 30 feet away. 4 soldiers, all young, nervous. One was injured, bleeding from his head. The bombing had hit them too. They were not hunting efficiently, just moving, following orders, staying alive. After they passed, Nakamura led the group in a different direction, farther from the path, deeper into woods. It would take longer, but it was safer. Cal's leg was beyond pain now, just numb, dead weight. He dragged it, let the others carry him. He had no strength left. They reached the coast by late afternoon. The fishing shed was still there, untouched by bombs. The boat was hidden under nets, still waiting, still ready. Nakamura checked it over, satisfied. He spoke to Hana. She translated. "Tide is good. We go when sun sets. 3 hours, maybe less. 3 hours to rest, to prepare, to say goodbye, because not everyone could go." The boat was small, room for maybe 3 people, 4 if they were small and did not mind crowding. But 5? Impossible. Someone had to stay. Someone had to be left behind. Aiko knew it first. She sat down heavily, her broken arm cradled against her chest. She looked at Cal, at Hana, at Keiko, at Nakamura. Then she spoke, firm, final. Hana started to argue. Aiko cut her off, repeated it, stronger. Hana's face crumpled. She translated quietly. "Aiko say she stay. She too hurt. Too slow. Boat go farther without her. She stay and hide. Wait for war to end. She survive before. She survive again." Cal shook his head. "No, you come. I'll stay. I'm the one they want. You'll be safe if... You die if you stay." Hana's English was sharp, clear. "Infection kill you in 2 days, maybe 1. Only American doctors save you. You must go." "Then we find another boat. We all go." "No other boat. No time. Soldiers come back soon. We go now or never." Hana looked at him, her eyes fierce. "You want Aiko's sacrifice mean nothing? You want her die for nothing? Then you stay, you die, story end. But you go? You live? Then her choice matter. Then she change world, just like she say." Cal had no answer. He looked at Aiko. She smiled. Sad but genuine. She had made peace with this. She was choosing again, one last time, choosing to let someone live, even if it meant she stayed in danger, stayed in uncertainty, stayed alone. She stood, walked to Cal, knelt beside him. She reached into her sleeve, pulled out something small, a lock of her own hair, tied with thread. She pressed it into his hand. Then she spoke, slowly, carefully. In English, just a few words, broken, heavily accented, but clear enough. "You, remember, you tell." Cal's vision blurred. He nodded. "I will, I promise. I'll tell everyone." Aiko smiled again. She touched his face. Gentle, motherly, like his own mother used to. Then she stood. She bowed to everyone. They bowed back. Then she turned and walked into the forest. Back toward the burned village. Back toward danger. Back toward the life she had left. She did not look back. Did not hesitate. She just went. Cal watched her disappear into the trees. He wanted to scream, to protest, to stop her, but he could not. She had chosen. And he had to respect that choice, even if it broke his heart, even if he knew he might never see her again, even if it felt like failure. Keiko was crying. Hana held her. The girl had lost everything, her village, her brother, her home, and now Aiko, the woman who stood up for her, who protected her, who showed her what courage looked like. Keiko had no one left, just these people, just this boat, just the hope that somewhere on the other side of the ocean was a life worth living. Nakamura checked the sky. The sun was low, almost time. He began preparing the boat, removing the nets, checking the oars, testing the small sail. Everything had to be perfect. One mistake could kill them all. Patrols would be watching the water, even at night, even with clouds. This was the most dangerous part. The ocean had no cover, no hiding places, just open water and hope. But it was also freedom, distance, escape. If they could make it past the coastal patrols, they had a chance, a real chance, to reach American ships, to reach safety, to reach life. Cal opened his hand, looked at the lock of hair, dark, gray-streaked, simple, but it represented everything: sacrifice, courage, hope, humanity in the darkest war, one woman's refusal to let hate win, one woman's insistence that kindness mattered, that people mattered, that choosing mercy was never wrong, even if it cost everything, even if it killed you. It was never wrong. Cal closed his hand, held the hair tight. He would keep it, forever. And he would keep his promise. He would tell Aiko's story. He would make sure the world knew that Japanese women saved an American pilot, that enemies became family, that propaganda lied, that people were people, no matter what uniform they wore, no matter what flag they saluted, no matter what language they spoke. People were people. And that mattered. That changed everything. That gave hope. That made survival worth it. That made the future possible. Nakamura gestured. The tide was right. The light was fading. It was time. Time to leave. Time to sail. Time to risk everything on the open water. Time to choose life over safety. Time to believe that mercy could carry them home. They pushed the boat into the water, climbed in, Cal, Hana, Keiko, Nakamura, 4 lives in one small boat. 4 people who chose humanity when the world demanded hate. 4 souls sailing into darkness, into danger, into hope. The shore faded behind them, the forest disappeared, the village smoke drifted away, and ahead was only ocean, endless, dark, beautiful, terrifying, unknown, but they rowed toward it anyway, together, choosing courage, choosing life, choosing to believe that sometimes, just sometimes. Mercy was stronger than war. The boat cut through dark water. Smoke from the burning village drifted across the inlet. It provided cover, made them invisible to watchers on shore. Nakamura rowed steadily. His old arms pulled the oars with practiced rhythm. The boat moved quietly, efficiently. Cal sat in the stern, his legs stretched out. Useless. The infection had spread to his hip now. He could see red lines running up his side. Blood poisoning. Advanced. Terminal without treatment. He had maybe 24 hours, maybe less. But he was on the water, moving toward rescue. That was something. That was hope. Hana sat beside Keiko. The girl had not stopped crying. Quiet, broken. She stared back toward land, toward everything she lost. Her home, her brother, Aiko, all of it gone. Burned, destroyed. She was 16 years old and her whole world had ended. Cal wanted to comfort her, tell her it would be okay. But he could not lie. Nothing was okay. Nothing would be okay for a long time. The inlet opened into the ocean. Waves rose higher here. The boat rocked. Nakamura adjusted his rowing, fought the current. They needed to stay close to shore for now, hug the coastline, use the rocks and smoke for cover. Once they were farther north, they could risk open water. But not yet. Not while patrol boats searched for survivors. Cal heard an engine, distant but approaching. A boat, motorized, fast. Everyone froze. Nakamura stopped rowing. Let the boat drift. They listened. The engine grew louder, closer. Through the smoke, Cal saw a shape. A patrol craft, Japanese, bristling with mounted guns. Searchlights sweeping the water. They were too far from shore to run, too far from deep water to hide. They were exposed, visible. Dead. The patrol boat came closer. Its searchlight cut through the smoke. The beam swept across the water. 50 feet away, 40, 30. moving toward them, seconds away from discovery. Nakamura spoke quietly. He was telling them what to do if the patrol opened fire, where to jump, how to swim for shore, who to grab, who to save. Cal understood none of the words, but he understood the tone. Final instructions. Last preparations. Goodbye. The searchlight was 20 feet away. Cal could see the patrol boat clearly now. 4 sailors on deck, 1 manning the light, 1 on the gun, 2 watching, scanning. The beam moved closer. 10 feet. 5. It would hit them any second. Cal held his breath, prepared for bullets, for death, for the end. The beam stopped, held steady, on something to their left. A piece of debris, floating wreckage from a bombed building. The patrol sailors shouted, pointed. 1 grabbed a hook. They were investigating the wreckage, making sure no one hid there, making sure it was not a body. Their searchlight stayed focused on the debris. Nakamura dipped his oars back into the water. Slow, silent. He rowed away from the patrol boat, into thicker smoke. The patrol sailors never looked their way, never saw them. They were too focused on the wreckage, too certain they would find something there. Nakamura rowed faster once the patrol was behind them. Distance was life now. Every meter mattered, every second counted. The smoke began to thin as they moved north. The burning village was farther away, less cover, more exposure, but also more distance from the patrols, from the searches, from immediate danger. Cal looked back one last time. The village was invisible now, hidden by smoke and distance. Somewhere back there, Aiko was hiding, waiting, surviving, alone. He pressed his hand against his chest, felt the lock of hair in his pocket. Safe, protected, a promise he had to keep. The sun touched the horizon, red, angry. The sky bled color across the water. Night was coming. Darkness would help, would hide them, would give them a chance. Nakamura pointed north, toward open water, toward Okinawa, toward American ships, toward home. They sailed into the dying light. 4 people in a small boat, fleeing death, chasing life, believing against all evidence that mercy could carry them across the ocean, that courage could defeat fear, that humanity could survive even the darkest war. The shore faded behind them. The ocean opened ahead, vast, endless, beautiful. And somewhere beyond the horizon was hope, real hope, the hope of survival, of reunion, of telling the story, of keeping the promise, of making the sacrifice mean something. They rowed toward it, together, refusing to surrender, refusing to give up, choosing life until the very end. The ocean swells grew larger. The small boat climbed each wave and dropped into the trough behind. Cal's stomach lurched with every rise and fall. His fever made the motion worse, disorienting. He gripped the side of the boat to keep from falling. Nakamura had raised a small sail, patched canvas that caught the wind and pulled them north. They moved faster now, but also more visibly. The sail was a beacon. Anyone watching the water would see it. But staying close to shore was more dangerous. Patrol boats searched the coastline. Open water offered distance, anonymity, a chance to disappear into the vastness. Hana checked Cal's leg again. She unwrapped the bandage carefully. The wound was black now, rotting. The smell was terrible. She turned away, covered her mouth. Keiko looked and started crying again. Cal did not need to see it to know. Gangrene. His leg was dying, taking him with it. He had hours left, maybe less. Hana rewrapped the leg. She met his eyes. Her expression was sad, resigned. She knew. They both knew. This race against time was one they might lose. The ocean was too wide, the infection too advanced, American ships too far. But they were trying anyway. That had to count for something. Night fell completely. Stars appeared. Thousands of them. More than Cal had ever seen. The ocean reflected them, made it seem they sailed through stars, above and below, infinite, eternal, beautiful. Cal stared up and thought about his mother, about church, about heaven, about what came after. He had never been particularly religious, but right now, right here, he wanted to believe, wanted to think that if he died tonight he would see the people he loved again, his father, his grandparents, maybe even Aiko someday, all of them together, safe, free, beyond the reach of war. The boat rocked gently. Nakamura had lowered the sail. They were drifting now, resting, conserving energy. The old fisherman had been rowing for hours. His hands were bleeding, blistered, but he said nothing, just sat breathing heavily, staring north, calculating, planning, hoping. Keiko huddled against Hana. The girl had finally stopped crying, just lay there, empty, exhausted. She had seen too much, lost too much. She was broken in ways that time might never heal. War did that to people. Destroyed them from the inside. Left them alive, but hollow. Breathing, but not living. Surviving, but not whole. Cal reached into his pocket. Found the lock of hair. Pulled it out. Looked at it in the starlight. Dark strands against pale fingers. He thought about Aiko's face, the way she smiled even when everything was falling apart, the way she chose courage when fear would be easier, the way she stood between him and the rifles. Refusing to let another mother lose a son, refusing to let hate win. He had to survive, had to tell her story, had to make sure the world knew. That was the purpose now, the reason to keep fighting, not for himself, not for glory, not for revenge, but for her, for all of them, for the proof that humanity endured, that mercy mattered, that people could choose love over hate even when hate was easier, even when love could kill them. He put the hair back in his pocket, closed his eyes, tried to rest. The fever made sleep impossible, just restless drifting, half-conscious, half-dreaming. He saw his mother's face, heard her voice, felt her hand on his forehead, checking for fever, comforting, protecting, the way mothers did, the way Aiko had, the way women throughout history had, choosing to nurture life even when the world demanded they celebrate death. A sound woke him. Distant, mechanical, growing louder, an engine, a boat, coming from the south, behind them, chasing them. Nakamura heard it too. He grabbed the oars, started rowing again, hard, fast, pushing his exhausted body. Hana took the other oar. Together they pulled. The boat picked up speed. The engine sound grew louder. Cal turned, saw lights on the horizon, a patrol boat, moving fast, searchlights sweeping. They had been spotted, or the patrol was checking this area. Either way, death was coming. Fast. Relentless. Armed. Nakamura rowed harder. Hana matched him, but they were too slow. The patrol boat was too fast. It would catch them in minutes. Cal looked around desperately. No cover, no fog, no smoke, just open water and stars. No way to hide, no way to escape. They were going to be caught, going to be killed, all of them. So close to freedom, so close to hope, but not close enough. The searchlight beam cut across the water, sweeping, searching, hunting. It passed behind them, then ahead, then turned back. Tracking, following, finding. The beam locked onto their boat, held steady, bright, blinding. They were caught, exposed, finished. The patrol boat's engine roared, coming straight at them. Cal heard shouting, Japanese orders, harsh, commanding. The searchlight stayed fixed on them. There was no escape now, no miracle, no lucky smoke, just the end. Fast approaching, inevitable, final. Cal looked at Hana, at Keiko, at Nakamura, three people who gave everything, who risked everything, who chose mercy, and now they would die for it. In the middle of the ocean, forgotten, unknown, their courage lost, their story untold. Cal felt anger rise, hot, fierce, after everything, after all of it, after surviving the crash, the soldiers, the infection, the bombing, after all the sacrifice and courage and hope, to die here, like this, caught by a patrol boat in the middle of nowhere. It was not fair, not right, not just. But war was never fair, never right, never just. Cal knew that. He had always known that. Fair was a word that meant nothing when bullets flew, when bombs fell, when good people died and evil people lived. Fair was a fantasy, a dream, a lie told to children to help them sleep. The patrol boat was 50 yards away, 40, 30, close enough to see the sailors on deck, close enough to see guns pointed, close enough to see death coming. Cal closed his eyes. Thought of home one last time, thought of his mother, thought of flying, thought of freedom, thought of all the things he would never do, never see, never know. Goodbye, Mama. I tried. I really tried. The searchlight beam blinded Cal. He could not see past it, could not see the patrol boat, could not see anything but white light burning his eyes. He heard the engine roaring, heard shouting, heard guns being readied. Then he heard something else. Another engine, deeper, louder, coming from a different direction. North. The patrol boat heard it too. The searchlight swung away, pointed north. Cal's vision cleared slowly. Spots danced in front of his eyes. He blinked, looked where the patrol was looking. Another boat was approaching. Larger, American, a PT boat, patrol torpedo boat. Fast, armed, hunting Japanese vessels in coastal waters. It had seen the patrol boat's searchlight, was coming to investigate, coming to fight. The Japanese patrol turned sharply, away from Cal's boat, toward the PT boat. They were going to engage, going to fight, going to ignore the refugee boat, at least for now. Nakamura did not wait. He grabbed the oars, started rowing, away from both boats, into darkness, using the distraction, the chaos, the gift of timing. Behind them gunfire erupted, machine guns, cannons, the ocean lit up with tracer fire, red streaks cutting through darkness, explosions, shouting, the sound of war. Cal's boat moved farther away, into shadow, into safety, into distance. The battle lasted 5 minutes, maybe less. Then one final explosion. Larger, brighter. The patrol boat had been hit. Flames rose from its deck. The PT boat circled, looking for survivors, looking for threats. Its searchlight swept the water. Systematic, professional, thorough. Nakamura stopped rowing. They were far enough now, hidden by darkness. The PT boat's light had not found them yet, might not find them. They needed to decide. Stay hidden and drift past, or signal. Risk exposure, risk being shot, but also risk rescue. Cal made the choice. He pulled off his tattered flight jacket, stood unsteadily in the rocking boat. Pain shot through his leg. His vision blurred, but he waved the jacket, tried to make himself visible, tried to signal. American, friendly. Help! The PT boat's searchlight swung their direction. Stopped, held, locked onto them. Cal kept waving. His arms shook. His strength failed. He collapsed back into the boat. The jacket fell into the water, drifted away. But the searchlight stayed. The PT boat's engine changed pitch. It was coming toward them. Hana grabbed Keiko, held her close. Both women looked terrified. American boat. American sailors. They were Japanese. Civilians. But still Japanese. Would the Americans shoot? Would they assume enemy? Would they kill first and check after? The PT boat pulled alongside. Guns pointed down at them. Sailors shouted. English, loud, demanding. Cal tried to respond, but his voice came out weak, cracked. Fever had stolen his strength. He raised his hands, tried to show surrender, tried to show he was American. One of them. A sailor shined a flashlight on Cal's face. then lower, at his flight suit, still visible under the farmer's coat. The sailor shouted to someone else. An officer appeared, looked down at Cal. His expression was shocked. "You American?" Cal nodded. "Lieutenant Calvin Mercer, 332nd Fighter Group, shot down 6 days ago." The officer's jaw dropped. "Jesus Christ, how did you—" He stopped, looked at Nakamura, at Hana, at Keiko. His expression hardened. "These Japs holding you prisoner?" "No." Cal's voice was urgent, fierce. "They saved me, hid me, protected me. They're with me. They're coming with me." The officer looked skeptical, but he gave orders. Sailors lowered ropes, helped pull Cal up first. He screamed when they moved his leg, nearly passed out. They laid him on the deck. 2 sailors immediately started checking his wounds. One looked at the leg and whistled. Low, grim. "This is bad, real bad. We need to get him to a hospital ship now." They pulled up Hana next, then Keiko. Both women looked terrified. The sailors stared at them, suspicious, hostile. One said something crude. Another laughed. Cal tried to sit up, to defend them, but he could not move, could not speak. The fever had taken everything. Nakamura was last. He climbed the rope slowly, his old body struggling. When he reached the deck, sailors grabbed him, pushed him down, hard, rough. Someone said something about a Jap spy, about how they should throw him back. Let him drown. Cal found his voice, weak but clear. "He saved my life. All of them did. You touched them. You hurt them. I'll report every one of you. Court-martial, I swear it." The officer held up his hand. Everyone stopped. He looked at Cal, at the women, at Nakamura. His expression was complicated, uncertain. This was not standard procedure, not normal protocol. Enemy civilians on an American military vessel. It could be treason, could be a trick, could be anything. But Cal was American, a pilot, one of their own, and he was vouching for these people, claiming they saved him. That had to mean something, had to count. The officer made a decision. "Put them in the hold, under guard. We'll sort this out at base." He looked at Cal. "You better be telling the truth, soldier, or we all hang for this." Cal nodded. "I am, I swear. They're good people. Heroes. They deserve protection, asylum, whatever we can give them." The officer grunted. Non-committal. He turned and gave orders. The PT boat's engine roared to life. They turned north, toward Okinawa, toward American bases, toward medical facilities, toward safety. Cal lay on the deck, staring at the stars. He had done it, survived, made it to American hands, against all odds, against all expectations. He was going home, going to live, going to tell the story, going to keep the promise. But as his vision darkened, as fever pulled him under, his last thought was not relief, not joy, not victory. It was worry. For Hana, for Keiko, for Nakamura, for what would happen to them now, for whether the Americans would honor his promise, or break it, for whether mercy would follow them here, or die on the water. He hoped for mercy, prayed for it. But he had learned. Hope was not enough. Prayer was not enough. Change required action, required courage, required people choosing what was right over what was easy, choosing humanity over hate, choosing to see the person before seeing the enemy. He had to survive, had to wake up, had to fight. Not just for himself anymore, but for them. For all of them. For the proof that crossing enemy lines could save lives instead of taking them. For the truth that war's greatest casualties were not bodies, but the lies that made killing possible. He would fight. Tomorrow. When he woke. If he woke, he would fight. For them, for justice, for the story, for everything they sacrificed, for everything they proved. He would fight. Cal woke to motion, the PT boat cutting through waves. Morning light filtered through gray clouds. His whole body ached, but he was alive, still alive. A medic knelt beside him, young, nervous, working on his leg, cleaning the wound. The pain was distant, dulled by morphine maybe, or shock. Cal did not care which. "Where are we?" The medic jumped. "You're awake. Good. You lost a lot of blood. Infection's bad. But we got you on sulfa drugs. Should help until we reach the hospital ship." "How long?" "Few hours, maybe 4. You just rest. Let the medicine work." Cal tried to sit up. The medic pushed him down. "You need to stay still. That leg's barely holding together." "The others, the Japanese people, where are they?" The medic's expression changed. Uncomfortable. "In the hold. Under guard. Are they okay? Are they being treated well?" The medic did not answer. Just focused on wrapping the bandage. Cal grabbed his arm. "Are they okay?" "They're fine. Just contained. For security." Cal let go. Lay back. His mind spun. Contained. That word carried weight. Carried implications. They were prisoners now, not refugees, not heroes, just enemy aliens. Suspicious, dangerous, guilty until proven innocent. He had to fix that. Had to make the officers understand. Had to tell the story before judgments were made, before decisions became permanent, before bureaucracy ground them into nothing. The PT boat's engine changed pitch. Slowing. Cal heard voices, orders being shouted. They were approaching something. He tried to see, but his position was wrong. The medic stood, looked over the railing. His eyes widened. "Hospital ship. We're here." Activity exploded around Cal. Sailors preparing to transfer him. A stretcher appeared. They lifted him carefully. The motion sent fresh pain through his leg despite the drugs. He gritted his teeth, stayed quiet. They carried him to the railing, lowered him to a smaller boat alongside. The transfer boat. Other wounded men were already there. Bloody, broken, some unconscious, some crying. The debris of war. The transfer boat pulled away from the PT boat. Cal looked back, saw sailors guarding the hold, saw Hana's face briefly at a porthole. She looked terrified, lost. He tried to wave, to signal, but they covered the porthole, blocked his view. She was gone. The transfer boat reached the hospital ship. Massive, white with red crosses painted on the hull, protected under Geneva Convention, neutral, safe, dedicated to saving lives regardless of nationality. Cal hoped that was true, hoped that neutrality extended to Japanese, civilians who saved American pilots. But he had doubts. The rules were clear on paper, messy in practice. They lifted him aboard, through corridors, into a ward, rows of beds, each holding broken men, missing limbs, bandaged heads, burned skin, the price of war laid bare. Nurses moved between beds. Doctors checked charts. Everything was organized, efficient, professional, saving lives with assembly line precision. They put Cal in a bed near a window. A doctor appeared. Older. Graying. He looked at Cal's leg and frowned. "How long has this been infected?" 5 days. Maybe 6. The doctor whistled. "You're lucky you're not dead. Gangrene this advanced usually kills in 3 days. Must have a strong immune system. Or stubborn." Cal tried to smile. Failed. The doctor did not smile either. "We'll need to operate. Remove the dead tissue. Maybe the whole leg if it's too far gone. We'll know more once we open you up." Cal nodded. He had expected that. Losing a leg was better than losing his life. He could fly with a prosthetic. Maybe. Possibly. Or he could never fly again. Either way, he would survive. Would tell the story. Would keep the promise. That was what mattered. "Before surgery, I need to make a report. Official report. About what happened." The doctor shook his head. "You need to rest. Report can wait." "No, it can't. There are Japanese civilians on that PT boat. They saved my life. They're in danger. They need protection, asylum. I need to report that now, before anything happens to them." The doctor studied Cal's face, saw the urgency, the desperation. He sighed. "I'll get an intelligence officer. But then you rest. No arguments." "Thank you." The doctor left. Cal lay back, stared at the ceiling. He had maybe an hour before surgery, maybe less. 1 hour to tell the story, to make them understand, to save Hana and Keiko and Nakamura. 1 hour to honor Aiko's sacrifice, to prove that her choice mattered, that mercy deserved mercy in return. He closed his eyes, organized his thoughts, remembered every detail, every moment, every name, every face. The story had to be perfect, complete, undeniable. He had to make them see, make them feel, make them understand that these Japanese people were not the enemy. They were heroes, protectors, proof that humanity survived even in hell. He had 1 chance, 1 hour, 1 story. It had to be enough. It had to work. Because if it did not, if they did not believe him, if they treated Hana and Keiko and Nakamura as enemies instead of allies, then everything was lost, all the sacrifice, all the courage, all the hope, wasted, forgotten, meaningless. Cal would not let that happen. Could not let that happen. He had made a promise, to Aiko, to himself, to everyone who believed mercy mattered. He would keep that promise, no matter what, even if it cost him everything, even if they court-martialed him for defending the enemy, even if his own people turned against him. He would keep the promise, because some things were worth fighting for. Some truths were worth telling. Some people were worth saving. And Hana and Keiko and Nakamura and Aiko were all of those things. They were heroes. And heroes deserved to be honored, protected, remembered. Cal would make sure they were. Starting now. Starting with 1 intelligence officer and 1 unbelievable story. Starting with the truth. The intelligence officer was white, young, suspicious. He sat beside Cal's bed with a notepad and skeptical eyes. His name was Lieutenant Barnes. He made it clear from the start that he did not believe Cal's story. Nobody would. It was too strange, too convenient, too much contradiction. "Let me get this straight." Barnes tapped his pencil on the notepad. "You're claiming Japanese civilians hid you from their own military for multiple days, risking execution, just out of the goodness of their hearts." "Yes. And you expect me to believe that?" "It's the truth." Barnes leaned back. "Lieutenant Mercer, I understand you've been through trauma, fever, blood loss. Sometimes the mind creates stories to cope with. I'm not making this up." Cal's voice was sharp, strong despite his weakness. "Aiko, Hana, Keiko, Nakamura. Those are real people, real names. They saved my life. All of them. And 3 of them are on that PT boat right now being treated like criminals." Barnes wrote down the names, but his expression did not change. "Even if this story is true, and I'm not saying it is, those people are still enemy nationals, Japanese citizens. We can't just grant them asylum because they were nice to you." "They weren't nice to me. They risked everything. They chose humanity over nationalism. They chose mercy over obedience. They deserve protection, not imprisonment. That's not how war works." "Then war is wrong." Cal met Barnes's eyes, fierce, unblinking. "If we punish people for showing mercy, for choosing courage, for proving that enemies can be allies, then we're no better than the propaganda we fight against." Barnes said nothing, just stared at Cal, evaluating, calculating. Finally he spoke. "Tell me everything, every detail, every moment. I'll write it down, pass it up the chain. But I can't promise anything. Command makes these decisions, not me." Cal talked. He told the whole story, from the crash to the barn to the floorboards to the river to the bombing to the boat. Every moment, every choice, every sacrifice. He talked until his voice was hoarse, until his throat burned, until Barnes's notepad was full of notes. When he finished, Barnes was quiet. He read through his notes. His expression had changed. Less skeptical, more thoughtful. Finally, he looked up. "This is one hell of a story, Lieutenant. If even half of it is true, those people are heroes." He paused. "But it's going to be hard to verify, hard to prove. And without proof, Command won't act. They'll detain the Japanese nationals, probably send them to internment camps, maybe repatriate them after the war. Standard procedure. That's not good enough. They'll die in camps, or they'll die when they go back. The Kempitai will execute them for helping me. You can't send them back. You can't." Barnes stood. "I'll do what I can. But you need to understand. In wartime, mercy is complicated. Justice is messy. Good people suffer. That's just how it is. It doesn't have to be." Barnes smiled. Sad. Tired. "Yeah, it does." He walked away, left Cal alone with his anger, his frustration, his helplessness. Cal lay back, stared at the ceiling. He had told the story, done what he could. But it was not enough. Words were not enough. The system did not care about individual stories, about personal courage, about human connection. The system only cared about rules, about categories, about enemy versus ally, black and white, no gray, no nuance, no mercy. He thought about Hana's face at the porthole. Terrified. Trapped. He thought about Keiko losing everything. He thought about Nakamura leaving his village to save a stranger. He thought about Aiko standing between him and the rifles. Choosing courage, choosing love, choosing to believe one act of kindness could change the world. She had been right. One act could change the world, could change him, could change the story, but only if people listened, only if they cared, only if mercy meant something beyond the individual moment, only if it created ripples, created policy, created change. Cal had to survive surgery, had to heal, had to get strong enough to fight, not with guns, not with planes, but with words, with testimony, with relentless determination to honor the people who saved him, to make sure their courage was not wasted. Their story was not forgotten. Their choice was not meaningless. He would fight. He would win. He had to, because anything less would be a betrayal of them, of himself, of everything he believed about justice and humanity and the possibility of redemption in a broken world. A nurse appeared. "Lieutenant Mercer, it's time. We're taking you to surgery." Cal nodded. They wheeled his bed down corridors, into an operating room, bright, clean, cold. Doctors and nurses surrounded him, masked, gloved, ready. A mask lowered over his face. Gas hissed. Sweet, chemical, his vision blurred. As consciousness faded, Cal's last thought was a prayer, not to God necessarily, not to any particular deity, just to the universe, to fate, to whatever force guided human events and shaped human choices. Let me survive. Let me heal. Let me tell their story. Let me honor their sacrifice. Let me prove that mercy matters, that courage counts, that choosing humanity over hate can change the world, even in the smallest ways, even in the darkest times. Let me prove that. Please. Everything went dark. Cal woke to white walls, white ceiling, white sheets, everything white, clean, sterile, American. He tried to move his leg, could not feel it. Panic seized him. He lifted his head. Looked down. The leg was still there. Bandaged. Splinted. But there. Not amputated. Relief flooded through him. A nurse noticed he was awake. She came over, smiled professionally. "Welcome back, Lieutenant. Surgery went well. Doctor saved the leg, most of it anyway. You'll walk again. With therapy. With time." "How long was I out?" 20 hours. You needed the rest. 20 hours. Almost a full day. Cal's mind raced. What happened to Hana? To Keiko? To Nakamura? Were they still detained? Were they safe? Had anyone listened to his report? Had Barnes done anything? I need to speak to someone. Intelligence, command, anyone who can help. You need to rest, doctor's orders. I need to help some people, Japanese civilians who saved me. They're being detained. They need... That's above my pay grade, Lieutenant. I just keep soldiers alive. Politics is someone else's job. She checked his IV, adjusted something. You should sleep. Healing takes time. Cal wanted to argue, but exhaustion pulled at him. The drugs were strong. His body demanded rest. He closed his eyes. Just for a moment. Just to gather strength. Then he would get up. Would find someone. Would make them listen. He woke again. Different nurse. Different shift. Afternoon light through the window. He had lost more time. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his leg. Fresh. Intense. The drugs were wearing off. Good. He needed to be alert. Needed to think clearly. Needed to fight. Easy there. The new nurse pressed him back down. You'll tear the stitches. How long this time? 6 hours? You're a heavy sleeper. 26 hours total. More than a day gone. Cal felt panic rising. I need to see Lieutenant Barnes, intelligence officer. He took my report yesterday, before surgery. I need to know what happened with it. The nurse looked uncomfortable. I don't know anything about that, but there's a colonel here to see you. Been waiting an hour. Should I send him in? A colonel, higher rank, more authority. Maybe someone who could help. Yes, please. The colonel entered. White, middle-aged, decorated. His expression was stern, formal. He pulled a chair beside Cal's bed, sat without asking permission. Opened a folder. Lieutenant Mercer, I'm Colonel Patterson. I've read Lieutenant Barnes's report. Very detailed, very interesting. He paused. Very difficult to believe. Cal's heart sank. It's all true, every word. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it creates problems. Big problems. We have 3 Japanese nationals in custody claiming you promised them protection. Asylum. That's not something a lieutenant can authorize. I know. But they earned it. They deserve it. You have to... I don't have to do anything, Lieutenant, except follow protocol. And protocol says enemy nationals get detained, interrogated, then sent to internment camps until the war ends. They'll die in camps, or they'll die when they go home. The Japanese military will execute them for treason, for helping me. You can't send them to their deaths. Patterson's expression did not change. War creates difficult situations, impossible choices. Sometimes good people suffer. That's regrettable. But it's reality. Reality can be changed. Choices can be made. You have the authority to help them, to grant them asylum, to do the right thing. The right thing. Patterson smiled. Cold, humorless. What's right for them might be wrong for military security, for national interests, for the broader war effort. I can't risk those things for 3 individuals, no matter how noble their actions might have been. Cal felt rage building, hot, fierce. So their lives don't matter, their courage doesn't matter, their sacrifice doesn't matter, just military security, just national interests, just the war machine grinding forward. That's how war works, Lieutenant. Individuals don't matter, only outcomes, only victory, only ending the war and bringing our people home. Everything else is sentiment, and sentiment loses wars. Sentiment? Cal almost laughed. Is that what you call basic human decency? Basic gratitude? Basic recognition that people who save American lives deserve protection in return? Patterson closed his folder. Stood. You're young, Lieutenant. Idealistic. You'll learn. War forces hard choices. Forces you to abandon sentiment. To see the bigger picture. To accept that sacrifice is necessary. From everyone. Including the people we'd rather not sacrifice. I won't accept that. Ever. If that's what war requires, then war itself is the problem. And the people who enforce it, people who hide behind protocol and national interests while good people die, they're the problem too. Patterson's face hardened. Careful, Lieutenant. That kind of talk could be considered insubordination, even treason, especially when you're defending enemy nationals over American policy. I'm defending human beings, people who proved that enemies can be allies, that mercy deserves mercy, that choosing humanity matters. If that's treason, then every officer who refuses to honor those values is a coward. Silence filled the room. Patterson stared at Cal, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. Quiet. Dangerous. You just called me a coward, Lieutenant. That's a court-martial offense. I could destroy your career, your future, everything. Do it. I don't care. Just help them. Please. They saved my life. Let me save theirs. That's all I'm asking. Patterson said nothing, just turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. Cal lay back, defeated, broken. He had failed, said the wrong things, pushed too hard, destroyed his only chance to help Hana and Keiko and Nakamura. His anger had cost them everything. He pressed his hands over his face, felt tears coming. He had survived, made it home. But what good was survival if he could not keep his promise? If he could not honor the people who saved him? If mercy ended at American shores? The nurse returned. She looked sympathetic. You okay, honey? Cal shook his head. Not okay. Not even close. Alive but broken. Saved but defeated. Home but homeless. Because home was supposed to mean justice, supposed to mean gratitude, supposed to mean honoring courage and protecting the innocent. But it did not. It meant protocol, national interests, bureaucracy that ground up individuals and called it necessary, called it war, called it the way things are. Cal refused to accept that, would not accept it. He would heal, would get strong, would find a way, would tell the story to anyone who would listen, would fight the system until it bent, until it broke, until it acknowledged that mercy mattered, that promises mattered, that 3 Japanese people who saved an American pilot deserved more than detention and deportation and death. He would fight, even if it cost him everything, even if they court-martialed him, even if his own people turned against him. He would fight, for them, for justice, for the proof that humanity could survive war, that love could survive hate, that mercy could survive cruelty. He would fight, and he would win. Somehow, some way, he had to. Cal's leg was healing, slowly, painfully, but healing. He could sit up now, could move around in a wheelchair, could think clearly without morphine fog, could plan, could strategize, could find ways to help. He had written letters, dozens of them, to command, to politicians, to newspapers, to anyone with authority or influence, telling the story, demanding action, begging for mercy. Most went unanswered. A few responded with polite deflection. Thanks for your service. We'll look into it. Standard bureaucratic dismissal. Empty promises. But Cal did not stop. He wrote more letters, talked to every officer who would listen, made himself a nuisance, a problem, a squeaky wheel demanding grease. Some called him obsessed, others called him crazy. Battle fatigue, they said. Trauma, delirium. He did not care what they called him. He just kept pushing. A chaplain visited. Black man. Older. Kind eyes. He sat beside Cal's bed without speaking for a while. Just present. Finally he said, I heard your story. From several sources. Different versions, but all pointing to the same truth. Cal looked up. What truth? That you met extraordinary people. That they saved you. That you're trying to save them. And that the system is failing them. The chaplain paused. I want you to know, you're not crazy. You're not wrong. What you're doing matters. Tears stung Cal's eyes. Then why isn't it working? Why won't anyone help? Because systems move slowly, especially military systems, especially during war. Change takes time, takes persistence, takes courage to keep fighting when everyone says stop. You have that courage. Don't lose it. I feel like I'm losing everything. Them. The promise. The meaning of it all. I survived for nothing if I can't save them. You survived to tell the story. That's not nothing. Stories change hearts. Hearts change minds. Minds change systems. It's slow, painful, often invisible. But it works. History proves it. The chaplain stood. Keep telling the story. Keep fighting. You're not alone. Others are listening. Others care. Change is coming. Just maybe not as fast as you want. The chaplain left. Cal felt slightly better. Slightly more hopeful. Maybe the chaplain was right. Maybe persistence would work. Maybe enough voices would eventually be heard. Maybe. That afternoon, an intelligence officer came. Not Barnes, someone new. He carried a folder, sat down, looked tired. Lieutenant Mercer, I have information about the village where you were hidden. Thought you'd want to know. Cal's stomach dropped. What kind of information? After the bombing, after your escape, the Kempitai conducted interrogations, extensive interrogations, looking for collaborators, for anyone who helped you. And? They arrested several people. 2 men died in custody. Several women were imprisoned. The village was partially burned. Punishment for harboring an enemy. Cal felt sick. Do you have names of the people arrested? The officer checked his folder. Some, not all. Record-keeping was chaotic. But there's mention of a woman, Aiko, arrested for suspicion of aiding enemy, released after interrogation. Last known status is living in the village ruins. She's alive? As of 2 weeks ago, yes. No information since then. The officer flipped a page. There's also mention of a teenage girl, Keiko, and her brother, both detained. Brother was Kempitai informant who apparently failed to report your presence. Both were questioned. Released eventually. Current status unknown. Cal exhaled. Alive. At least some of them were alive. Aiko survived. Keiko survived. That was something. That was hope. What about the others? The ones helping me? No specific names match. But the report mentions villagers claiming a fisherman helped you escape. No confirmation on whether he was caught. Nakamura. Maybe he made it back. Maybe he disappeared. Maybe he was still out there somewhere, living quietly, telling his own version of the story. Cal hoped so. Hoped all of them were alive. Were surviving. Were knowing that their choice mattered. That Cal made it. That the story would be told. The officer closed the folder. Thought you should know. Whatever happens next, at least you know they're not all dead. That counts for something. It counts for everything. Cal's voice was thick. Thank you for telling me, for finding out, for caring enough to check. The officer nodded. What you're doing, fighting for those Japanese people, it's unusual, maybe crazy, but I respect it. Courage comes in different forms. Yours is just as real as what you did in combat. After he left, Cal sat in his wheelchair staring out the window. Aiko was alive. Keiko was alive. Maybe Nakamura too. They survived. Despite everything. Despite the interrogations and arrests and punishment. They survived. That meant Cal's promise still mattered. Still had purpose. Still needed keeping. He would get out of this hospital. Would heal completely. Would go home to America. And once there, he would tell the story everywhere. To everyone. Churches, schools, military functions, newspapers, radio, anywhere that would listen. He would tell the world about 3 Japanese women and an old fisherman who chose mercy, who proved enemies could be family, who showed that humanity survived even in the darkest war. And maybe, just maybe, he would find a way to bring them to America, to give them the asylum they deserved, to reunite with them, to thank them properly, to show them that their courage was honored, their sacrifice was not wasted, their choice changed everything. It was a big dream, maybe impossible. But Cal had learned something important. Impossible things happened every day. He survived when he should have died. Civilians saved him when they should have hated him. Mercy triumphed when hate should have won. Impossible was just another word for difficult, for unlikely, for requiring extraordinary effort. Cal could manage extraordinary effort, had already proven that, would prove it again. For them, for the promise, for the truth that mercy mattered more than war, that people mattered more than nations, that love could survive hate, could transform hate, could maybe even end hate, one story at a time, one choice at a time, one act of courage at a time. He looked at his hands, at the lock of hair he still carried in his pocket, at the promise that drove him forward. He whispered it again, the same words, the same vow. I'll remember, I'll tell, I promise. And he meant it, with everything he had, with everything he was, with everything he would become. He would keep that promise, no matter what, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. Some promises were worth keeping, some stories were worth telling, some people were worth fighting for, and Aiko and Hana and Keiko and Nakamura were all of those things. They were heroes, and Cal would spend the rest of his life making sure the world knew it. The reconnaissance plane banked over green mountains. Japan had surrendered 2 weeks ago. The war was over. Cal sat at the window looking down at the land that almost killed him. That also saved him. That changed him forever. His leg still hurt, would always hurt. The doctors said he could fly again, with restrictions, with limitations. But he could fly. He had already requested a transfer, not to combat, to transport, to missions that helped instead of destroyed, to work that honored what he learned instead of forgetting it. Below was Honshu. Somewhere down there was the village, the rice fields, the barn, the farmhouse, the river, all the places where ordinary people made extraordinary choices, where mercy survived, where humanity proved propaganda wrong, where strangers became family. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Lieutenant Mercer, we're approaching the coordinates you requested, the village, or what's left of it. Cal pressed closer to the window, searching, looking for familiar shapes, for reference points, for home, because that's what it had become. A strange home, a painful home, a home built from sacrifice and courage and impossible kindness. He saw it, the village, or ruins of it. Many buildings were gone, burned, collapsed, but some remained. People moved through the streets, rebuilding, surviving, refusing to surrender even after surrender, refusing to die even after defeat, choosing life. Again. Always. Cal wondered if Aiko was down there, if Keiko was rebuilding, if Nakamura was fishing again, if any of them looked up and saw this plane, if they wondered whether it carried enemies or allies, destruction or help, death or life. The plane circled. Cal stared at the village until his eyes burned, until the pilot said they had to move on, had to continue the reconnaissance, had to document the war's damage, map the pieces beginning. As they flew away, Cal whispered, "I made it, I'm alive, because of you, and I'm going to tell everyone, I promise." The mountains fell away behind them. The village disappeared. Japan shrank to an island in the vast ocean. But Cal carried it with him, in his pocket, in his heart, in his memory. Aiko's lock of hair, Hana's broken English, Keiko's tears, Nakamura's steady hands, the proof that mercy could cross any boundary, could bridge any divide, could survive any war. He would tell the story, already was telling it, had given his official report, was writing letters, would write more when he got home, would speak at events, would testify if needed, would dedicate his life to proving that what happened in that village mattered, that it meant something, that it changed the world in small but crucial ways. Because that's what stories did. They changed people. People changed policy. Policy changed nations. Nations changed the world. It was slow, incremental, often invisible, but it worked. One story, one heart, one mind, one choice at a time. Cal looked out at the sky, the same sky he fell through, the same sky that carried him between worlds, between enemy and ally, between hate and love, between death and life. It was still blue, still vast, still beautiful, still full of possibility. He thought about the future, about going home, about reuniting with his mother, about seeing Mississippi again, about facing the segregation that still waited there, the racism, the injustice, the same hate wrapped in different uniforms, different flags, different languages, but the same hate. He would fight it, with the same courage Aiko showed, the same mercy Hana taught, the same hope Keiko embodied, the same stubborn determination Nakamura demonstrated. He would fight until segregation ended, until justice was real, until mercy was standard, until the lessons of war became lessons of peace. It would take time, maybe his whole life, maybe longer. Maybe he would not see victory. Maybe he would only see the beginning of change. Small steps, tiny victories, incremental progress. But that was okay. That was enough. Because that's how real change happened. Not in explosions, not in dramatic moments, but in daily choices, in persistent courage, in refusing to accept hate as normal, as acceptable, as the way things are. Cal had learned that from 3 Japanese women and an old fisherman. They could have accepted hate, could have obeyed orders, could have let him die. But they chose differently, chose mercy, chose courage, chose humanity. And that choice rippled outward. Changed Cal. Would change others through his story. Would maybe change the world. Eventually. Slowly. One heart at a time. The plane turned north, toward Okinawa, toward base, toward the bureaucracy and protocol and systems that defined military life. But Cal was not worried. Not anymore. He had faced worse, had survived worse, had learned that systems were made of people, and people could choose, could change, could bend toward justice if pushed hard enough, long enough, courageously enough. He would push, would not stop, would honor the people who saved him by becoming the person they believed he could be, a witness, a storyteller, a fighter for mercy, a proof that crossing enemy lines could save more lives than staying behind them. That seeing humanity in the other could end wars faster than winning them. That was the real victory, the real heroism, not in combat, not in killing, but in choosing to see the person before the enemy, the family before the foreigner, the human before the hate. That's what Aiko and Hana and Keiko and Nakamura did. That's what they taught. That's what Cal would spend his life passing forward. The plane climbed higher. The islands below became abstract, shapes and colors, patterns and textures, beautiful and peaceful from distance. War's scars invisible from here. Only the beauty remained. Only the hope. Only the possibility. Cal closed his eyes. Felt the sun through the window. Warm. Life-giving. Constant. He thought about home. About future. About the promise he made and the promise he would keep. He thought about Aiko one last time. Her face. Her courage. Her final words. You remember. You tell. I will. Cal whispered to the sky, to the sun, to the memory, to the promise, to the future he would help build. I will remember, I will tell, I will honor you, all of you, forever. The plane flew on, carrying Cal toward tomorrow, toward home, toward a life dedicated to proving that mercy mattered, that courage counted, that humanity could survive even the darkest war, that enemies could become family, that hate could become love, that war could become peace. One story at a time, one choice at a time, one act of mercy at a time. Starting with 3 Japanese women and 1 American pilot, starting with the day he fell from the sky, and the day he learned that falling could be the beginning, not the end, the beginning of understanding, of connection, of hope, of change, the beginning of everything that mattered, the end.